the house. Packing the box with fatigue, Todd compared every item in the box to the order form. He then verified that the address on the label and the form shipped to field match. "They're dragging a bit," said one of the packers. "Terry is like this, like that, and ugh. Simply go to bed," Todd yelled angrily. "I can't get comfortable, so I guess no one's going to get any sleep, huh?" It was hard to have a conversation with the building's clang and clatter. Todd would have had a headache before the first hour of work had even passed if he hadn't already suffered from a terrible hangover from the previous evening. It was noisy at work at Anna Soaps. The previous night, Todd had been at Dante's, trying to get his thrash metal band, Lude, a gig. Todd lingered and engaged in conversation with Rick, the manager, while downing beer after beer. Todd went out back to smoke some joints with the attractive bartender, Paula, while Rick was occupied with paperwork. Todd also made an attempt to get into Paula's underwear before heading back to his one-room apartment with Terry. "Baby, why you so late?" Asking drowsily, Terry woke up when Todd crawled into bed beside her. Todd placed the blame for his absence until nearly 3 in the morning on the bar manager, another group's non-existent manager, and everyone else but himself. Then, fired up from his time with the adorable, vivacious Paula, Todd insisted that Terry and he had a great time. Terry complained, "Baby, come on, I'm tired. I'm finally at ease here. In any case, why did you have to buy this mattress?" Terry groaned, but Todd didn't listen. It was 2:54 in the morning as the neighbor to their left pounded on the wall. It was much too late in the evening to be yelling. Todd was snoring when Terry emerged from the restroom, having struggled for a full 12 minutes to get rid of her waste. Terry wanted to scream at Todd and slap him awake. Her desire was to smash a cup of cold water onto his head. Her desire was to splash him with hot water from a pot. She wanted to take one of the steak knives that her cousin had given her for her wedding and stick it in Todd's ass. Todd was grumpy when his alarm went off at 7 o'clock. Terry ignored him after telling him he could prepare his own breakfast. Todd was in a bad mood as he stomped around, preparing for another day at Anna Soaps, and Terry's silent treatment did not help. "Well, guess what?" a colleague joked while Todd got to work on the following order. "It doesn't improve. A baby is born. At that point, you won't even get a minute of sleep." "Like, no kidding," agreed Tony Delacroix, owner of Anna Soaps, as she gently brushed back her blonde curls. "Similar to Jake. Just put him to sleep, and then realize that he might need a bottle, a diaper, or both." Me and Anita. God, the first night he slept through the entire night. We were both relieved and terrified. "Excellent," Todd complained sourly. Terry gathered their clothes into the canvas bag while Todd tried to pick up the pace, move a little faster, and work a little more efficiently. She tiredly walked out of the apartment, making sure she had her apartment key, a roll of quarters, and detergent. She had laid down to try to sleep, and the baby had rested heavily on her bladder until Todd had woken her up. Terry felt like she had been pregnant forever, even at 6 months, and all she wanted was for this experience to end. She asked herself, "Then what?" as she dragged the bag outside. "Aw, hey, let me get that for you, huh?" Terry was leaving apartment 307 when Trent Rawlings, handsome older man who lived in apartment 304, asked. Trent ignored Terry's playful protests, picked up the bag, and headed for the stairs. Terry trailed behind, appreciative that Trent was lugging the heavy bag down the 2 flights of concrete and metal stairs. "But why isn't that husband of yours doing this?" Trent inquired as he entered the Venice apartment complex's steaming laundry room. Terry remarked, "At work," as Trent dropped the bulky bag in front of the laundry bank. "Thank you, Mr. Rawlings. I guess I told you, Trent. Give me a call, Trent. I just finished another 14 on," Trent remarked as he sat down in the small space. "Damn, glad to be back on dry land." Trent watched as the adorable girl threw the clothes on the ground and started to separate the lighter and darker items. Her height was approximately 4 feet 10 inches, possibly 4 feet 11 inches, and her thick brown hair fell to just above her waist. Terry longed for her neighbor to disappear. His bright blue eyes, thick blonde hair, and easy smile all contributed to his striking good looks. Terry had seen his muscular chest and flat belly when Trent swam in the apartment's pool. He was tall, perhaps 6'1" or 6'2". She was nervous around this man, and she wished he would go. Terry was a little taken aback by the way he looked at her, though she wasn't sure why. Terry was also made to acknowledge her husband's shortcomings when Trent questioned her about him. Terry realized that Todd wasn't doing much to help her when Trent casually hefted the laundry bag and said, "But why isn't that husband of yours doing this for you?" Trent had been the first to greet Todd and Terry at the apartment building. He had also had conversations with Todd about music and guitars, and with Terry about pregnancy and diet. When Todd offered to split a joint with Trent, he abruptly left their apartment, claiming he had another engagement and was running late. Terry turned away from the washing machine and noticed that the attractive man was staring at her. Her pulse quickened, and she could feel her breathing getting difficult. Though she was relieved he had stayed, she still wished the man would go. "Don't think you ever told me, but how did you and Todd get together?" Terry collapsed in the firm plastic chair to Trent's right, and Trent questioned. "He and his band, I guess," Terry remarked. "Yvette got them to play for her birthday party. Her ex-boyfriend is the drummer." Yvette discovered Skip's phone number a few months after their breakup, despite having broken up a week prior to her birthday. After giving it some thought, Skip gave Yvette Todd's phone number. Terry had sobbed as she admitted to being pregnant, and Todd had laughed at her. "All right, how in the hell do you want me to handle this?" Todd became convinced that he needed to make the right decision after Terry's father, Wade, paid him a visit at Susan's house. Todd and Terry became husband and wife and moved into the Venice apartments 3.5 months after Yvette's birthday. Trent remarked, "Well, he's a lucky man," as Terry wrapped up her story. Terry gave a tight smile and said, "Thank you," adding fabric softener to both machines. Todd did not pretend to be a lucky man. It appeared that Todd had been complaining nonstop since learning Terry was expecting. Todd voiced grievances regarding his employment at Anna Soaps. He was upset that the PV mixing board that Cash for Gold, a pawn shop, had on its sales floor was out of his price range. He bemoaned the fact that his salary was being used for utilities, rent, and food. Todd griped about Terry's infatuation. Terry had given up alcohol the moment she learned she was expecting. Giving up the pot had not been difficult for Terry because she had never liked the taste or smell of marijuana. Terry remarked sourly, "But he seems to find money for beer and marijuana. It appears that money has moved to rank and file or Dante's. You go there?" Trent inquired, his light blonde eyebrows lifted as his blue eyes scrutinized her. "What? No, God, this place hurts my headache," Terry exclaimed as she stood back up. Trent said, "Got another 12 minutes on the spin," before Terry had a chance to look at the washing machine. "What?" Terry said, "Oh, no, about Pop here," as she opened the tiny bathroom door. Terry needed assistance from Trent to move the washer's contents to the dryer wall. Despite the fact that someone had forced the tape out of the slot, he pointed out that dryer number 3 was out of order. Trent pondered, "That sign right there says clothes are not to be left unattended," upon noticing how full dryers 4 and 6 were of clothing. That coverlet," Terry noted, "that was in there last Tuesday." After taking a few pictures of the 2 dryers with his phone, Trent texted someone. Terry's apartment manager, Keisha, eased her bulk onto the laundromat and fanned her perspiring face while she and Trent waited for Terry's clothes to dry. "And who put down my sign?" Terry and Trent were ordered to fix the broken dryer by Keisha. "Had be us, right?" Trent lost his cool and returned the woman's attitude. "It had to be us since we are the ones seated here. But, rather than hanging signs, would you please consider sending someone out to fix it?" "He is coming the Monday after next," Keisha angrily declared. "Next Monday? Is he strolling in from Mexico?" Trent made a demand. "Much money as we're paying in rent, and that's the best you can do." Keisha walked out, muttering to herself. Trent turned to face Terry, shaking his head disdainfully. "How come she just sits there and acts like a moron when you ask her to do her goddamn job?" stated Trent. First dryer completed. Todd's blue jeans hadn't dried completely, so Terry had to give dryer 5 more quarters to feed. Trent remarked, "Like I said, just got back," as Terry placed the now dried clothing in her bag. "Was going to do up a breakfast for lunch thing before running down to Super One." Terry happened to walk into apartment 304. The furnishings were sturdy and manly. The apartment with 1 bedroom featured a spacious living and dining area. The bedroom and dining room were divided by the kitchen. One had to go through the bedroom, around the corner, and into the tiny bathroom to use the restroom. Terry was forced to do this after ascending 2 flights of stairs. With a smile, Trent started to take out a large bowl from the cabinet located to the left of the stove. One more false alarm. Terry noticed that Trent's bed was spacious and well made as she emerged from the restroom. The furniture in the dining room and living room was the same as that in the bedroom. It was sturdy, ebony, and macho. "All right, jumbled," Trent remarked. "Every time I try to do sunny side up, I break the damn things." "Oh, I can do sunny side up if that's what you want," Terry replied. Trent gave the command, 3 of them, and started preparing pancakes. They ate at his sturdy table and in his sturdy, non-swaying chairs. Trent said he was sorry, but he had been offshore for 2 weeks and all he had to drink was Tang powdered mix. By now, anything that was still in the refrigerator would have gone bad. Trent asked Terry if she needed anything from the grocery store after she assisted him in loading the dishes into the dishwasher. He asked her if she would like to accompany him to the supermarket Super One Foods. "No money," Terry acknowledged. "Husband's working, right?" Trent queried. Terry answered, "Yes." "Assume they pay him, right?" Trent queried. "In American dollars, not bubble gum, right?" Terry scoffed and said, "Oh, yeah. Where's it all going?" Trent queried. Terry said, "I don't know, crap. I return. Can assist you in creating a budget," Trent remarked. "I thought, damn, when I first started working offshore, I get paid $19 an hour. Oh, yeah. However, I discovered that I need to create a budget because I'm eating steak on Friday, peanut butter and jelly by Monday, and I can't even afford the jelly by Thursday." Terry nodded. "Okay." Trent gave Terry a warm, gentle squeeze at the door. It was not physical in the least. Todd would not have objected if Trent had made the loving gesture toward Terry in front of him. But it was a conversation between Terry and Trent. After putting away her clean clothes, Terry stretched out and had a quick cat nap. She awoke to Trent's soft knock on the door. Terry and Trent reviewed Todd's pay stubs while seated at his hefty table. Todd had deposited money directly into his First Union Bank account. Terry then displayed Todd's most recent bank statement. Okay, here's rent, and on the 12th, I assume that's utilities, Trent responded. Trent muttered, and Terry's blood started to boil. Todd had recently received a $680 check, increasing their balance to $750. And with 9 days until payday, Todd's account was back down to $34. Presuming Todd hadn't recently withdrawn more cash from another ATM. You have another account. Terry's rage was cut short by Trent's question. Not at all, Terry growled, and Todd has the only debit card. Trent mused, All right, it's the last pay period. Okay, so let's get to work creating a budget for the upcoming pay period. You mean the 1st and 15th? Yeah, remarked Terry. Terry worked with Trent to draft a rough budget. But she knew this would be a fruitless endeavor because Todd would follow no rules. He would come across a bill that he simply needed to pay. His guitar would require better, more recent strings. He would require fresh attire for the upcoming performances that Lude would undoubtedly be attending. A stomp box or other guitar effects pedal would be necessary for him to cover up his careless, unbalanced playing. Trent said, You have to stick up for yourself. That infant, the baby, will require diapers. When you receive an old box, you might think it will last forever, but you'll quickly need a new one. Terry remarked, You kind of sound like you've been through this. Trent nodded his head, his easy smile fading. Then he attempted to grin once more. Yeah, my wife, my former wife. After Amelia and Andrea, my sister-in-law claims that I tried to screw her, Trent said angrily, erasing any hint of a smile once more. Who's Fran going to believe? I didn't. Me. Or doesn't her sister still not like me? You see your daughters, you see them a lot. After a protracted silence, Terry inquired. Trent spit angrily and stood up, saying, Last time went see them they didn't even want to get in the car. Listen, I guess, you and Todd. You guys really ought to look into your financial circumstances. Terry said, Yeah, thanks, and gathered her documents. Trent answered, Yes. Trent apologized for his ill mood at the door. Terry comforted him by placing her hand on his forearm. She expressed to him her understanding. It was a straightforward closed-mouth to closed-mouth kiss. Terry remained uncertain as to whether Trent or her had started the kiss. She did not, however, shoo him away. Terry waited for Todd to get out of the shower when he got home. After serving him dinner, they sat and chatted. She ate quietly while Todd talked nonstop about Lude, about a new song he'd come up with at work, and about trying to get a gig at the gentleman's club in LG called Desire Factory. You know how much money's in the bank? When Todd jammed a forkful of food into his yammering mouth, Terry questioned. Todd surveyed his plate of food. The account you have with your bank. Do you know how much money you currently have in there? Questioned Terry. Well, what about it? 400, 500. Todd made a guess. Todd, that's $33.93 and $33. That particular beef. That's the last of that meat that our father brought us, Terry remarked, raising her voice. Todd, $33.93. We must buy groceries. Do you know how much $33 can get us? It's not possible, objected Todd. Well, what did I put? There were more than 600 people there a few days ago, no doubt about it. And spent a bunch of it on I don't know what, Terry said, her face red with rage. With his phone out of his pocket, Todd quickly checked his bank account. Terry almost felt like grinning in victory, seeing the expression on Todd's face that she'd been validated. However, she was too furious to grin. What? Where? Todd let out a gasp. And all that money on guitar stuff. Terry persisted in her attack. You haven't earned a dime from playing the guitar, Todd. Your group. Nowhere have any of you made any money. Your cousin's celebration, Todd countered. And what was that? Nearly half a year ago. What have you created since then? Terry put forth a challenge. Terry proceeded to present Todd with her preliminary budget. She made no mention of Trent's help. Todd pouted and wouldn't look at the spending plan. Hey, I understand how important your music is to you, Terry attempted to appease Todd. I'll tell you what. Does Lude make any money? You own that money. You own that. It can be used for anything. You want that mixer, that Flying V Washburn, whatever. Jackson, Todd gave a sneer. It's a Jackson King V. Anyhow, you're out of money, though. Terry said, that needs go for the house, the baby. Todd discovered that there was no milk for his Frosted Flakes cereal in the morning. Terry smirked at him, and he wanted to slap her, but refrained. Wade, Terry's father, frightened Todd. Terry was given permission by Trent to borrow a small amount of milk for her own bowl of Frosted Flakes cereal. Trent also told Terry how unhealthy that bowl of Frosted Flakes really was. Sugar. Next, the corn. The corn has been stripped of its nutrients and pulverized into dust, Trent remarked, watching Terry eat the cereal from his bowl at his table. Terry used the back of her hand to wipe her mouth and said, Okay, smart guy. What should I eat instead? Protein, stated Trent. Ha, Terry grinned. Todd makes that claim frequently. Apart from the possible source of protein, it's still a rather one-sided affair. Despite his blush, Trent laughed and said, Didn't mean that. Eggs, bacon, chicken. Oh, blushing now, Terry said. How can it be biased, too? I mean, I know your belly's a little big for, like, 69, Trent remarked, attempting to push the sexual topic with the petite beauty who was expecting as far as possible. But, a ladies first, then the men, right? Todd doesn't do that, Terry admitted as she sipped the last of the bowl's milk. Trent said, didn't ask if you had any money. Asked if you wanted to go with me, get some lunch. Terry replied, yeah, sure, even though she was aware of how little food there was in her apartment. Trent told Terry at the top of the stairs that it was proper for him to go ahead. In this manner, if she were to trip and fall, he would break her fall. So what? Ascending. For the same reason, man is said to walk behind, Trent remarked. Terry giggled accusingly, and so you can look up my dress. Trent remarked, hey, a good deed should have its rewards. The smothered pork chops fell off the bone, tender as a fork. Terry just about cleared her plate. Satisfied, she gulped down the excessively sweet iced tea and reclined. The big black woman grabbed Terry's empty plate and asked, all done? Yes, ma'am, replied Terry. The woman said, y'all got room for some banana pudding. You're not serious. You must be kidding, don't you? The woman gave Trent a quick smile as he laughed. Trent forced Terry to go up the stairs in front of him once more at the apartment building. Terry wasn't really concerned about Trent peeking up her skirt because she was wearing maternity shorts with her maternity blouse. Terry thought, like he'd want to look at my pregnant body anyway. They stopped outside Trent's apartment. Trent opened the door and faced Terry. You want to come in? He inquired. Terry gave a nod, and they moved into Trent's apartment's chilly, dark interior. Terry was offered juice, ice water, or even coffee by Trent. Is this real coffee or instant coffee? She inquired. When Trent pretended to be offended that she would even propose that he have anything other than actual coffee, she grinned. When she piled sugar and powdered creamer into her mug, he whipped up a pot in a flash and grinned. Trent joked, leave some room for the coffee. Terry's right easy chair could have accommodated Trent, but instead they sat side by side on his couch. While enjoying their steaming coffee, they sat and talked about nothing specific. Want some more coffee? When had Terry emptied her mug, Trent inquired. Terry said, want to use the restroom. Trent helped her to her feet gently and said, okay, know where it is. Trent did make them each another mugs of coffee while she was in his bathroom. Terry piqued his interest to the brink of infatuation. She would stay in his apartment and spend more time with him if they had a cup of coffee. A little unsettling, Trent murmured to himself. What are you? 2 times her age. What kind toilet paper that is? Terry entered the kitchen and inquired. In the north. Why not? Trent queried. Terry took the second mug of coffee and poured more sugar and creamer on top. It's nice, she said. Trent acknowledged. Yeah, well, we get the industrial kind offshore. All right, let's get inside. Desire something a little more gentle. Terry acknowledged that she had discussed the finances and the budget with Todd. Terry let out her frustration, and Trent listened. I swear, I should have never married him, Terry moaned as she sipped her coffee, which was still too hot. None of my business, but first time I met y'all, he offered smoke couple of joints with me, Trent told Terry. Think his money's going to that. Probably God, Terry spit out. But I told him last night. He should stop focusing on his stupid band and start thinking about the baby in us. I see. Oh, so he plays in a band or something, Trent said in a jesting voice. Or something, Terry concurred. Terry's second cup of coffee made her realize she needed to use the restroom once more. Trent's hand touched Terry's chubby butt this time as he helped her to her feet. Terry teased Trent with a laugh and a playful batting motion. Quit, she said. Bad. With a scowl, Trent raised his right hand. Improper hand. A terrible, terrible hand. With a giggle, Terry waddled over to Trent's bathroom. Trent trailed along, pausing in his kitchen. Want more coffee? Trent yelled. From his bathroom came a muffled no. With a shrug, Trent turned off the coffee maker. Terry replied, no, and went into the kitchen. I have any more, it'll keep me up all night. What? Trent grinned and said. However, Todd, the god of love, is standing next to you. He must keep you up all night, I suppose. No, spit out Terry. Gah. Oh no, I'm done there. Good night, and roll over. Wow, Trent stated firmly. I am aware. Are you jealous? Yes, stated Terry. Perhaps of him, Trent said. Okay, better get out of here or Mr. Bad Hand might start acting up again. Oh no, Terry chuckled. And we wouldn't want that. Trent planted a chaste kiss on Terry at the door. He squeezed the 18-year-old woman with his left arm. Trent's right hand moved slowly toward Terry, who laughed. She extended her arm to fend off Mr. Bad Hand and planted another kiss on Trent. Terry said, bye, her smile disappearing. Terry hurried to her own apartment, and Trent watched from his open doorway. Her apartment door slammed and he stood for a long moment. Terry ran to the bathroom in her apartment. Todd came home hungry, sweaty, and exhausted. Terry patiently waited for him to finish his shower before kindly asking him what he wanted to eat for supper. I'm not sure. What do we have? Todd inquired. Well, let's investigate. I see. Nothing, Todd. We're out of luck, Terry stated. Additionally, there are still 7 days until the 15th of the month. Todd yelled, Nuh-uh, look, right here, got this thing of potato soup, as his headache from the noise resurfaced. Oh, well thought out. See you later. All right, let's get started. Take out the can from Todd's hand and add 1.5 cups of milk, Terry angrily said. She opened the tiny refrigerator with great theatrical flair. She peered in at the bottom shelf, the inside of the door, and the top shelf. I mean, really, sweetums, guess what? Terry said, no milk. Todd gave a scream and held up his hand. Terry growled and grabbed one of the steak knives her cousin had given them. Do it, Terry growled. Todd took a long moment and went back to the couch. Terry replaced the knife in its ornamental holder. Then she gave Todd a glare. Need call your mama, or your uncle, or whoever, see if you can borrow some money, make us some groceries, Terry replied. What? I see, call your dad. Todd complained. Called him last time, remember? Terry suddenly said, I'm exhausted. Bring us a few grocery bags, please. And he gave us no money, so all you could do was cry. Todd gave his mom a call. Terry shook her head, disgusted at her husband's whiny tone. He finally hung up the phone and exhaled deeply. And, at last, Terry made a demand. Todd remarked, she said she'll bring a few bucks by. Wade and Susan had to have spoken. Susan came in carrying a bag of groceries rather than coming over with cash. She gave Todd the keys to her car and informed him that there were 3 more bags in the trunk. No money, Todd complained. Said you, Todd, needed food. Susan angrily said, and that's what I brought you, Todd. Todd, $93 worth. Todd, go get the remaining groceries. Terry said, thank you, Miss Susan, as she started to store the groceries. Milk. I'm grateful. Susan sighed. His dad was a lot like that too. Was destined to become wealthy. Now, it will work out this time. It's going to be different this time. However, that time never arrived. Had enough of that nonsense at last, told him to go find another sucker. Todd entered the apartment and placed a bag on the tiny table. Then, panting, he stood there. Susan yelled, car's not going to unload itself. Todd, come on. I've got somewhere need to be. What? How come? Wherever you require, inquired Todd. Susan angrily said, come on, get busy. It's none of your business. Move it, hop, like a bunny, let's go. Where you going, Miss Susan? Terry inquired about Todd's next departure. Nowhere, acknowledged Susan. The 2 women laughed together. As he carried the final 2 bags into the apartment, Todd moaned and made noise. Susan kissed her daughter-in-law on the lips, refused to give Todd any money, and walked out of the apartment. Terry made Todd some dinner in the microwave. Then she fixed herself something to eat while he was eating. Terry remarked, that was very nice of your mother, after Todd disposed of nearly half of his meal in the trash. That's right, Todd yelled. Terry had to haul the trash bag out of the apartment the following afternoon because Todd's half-eaten lunch was starting to smell. Terry came to the stairwell just as Trent was trudging his wash up the steps. Trent made a joke. Saw that woman bring y'all some groceries. Got groceries? Don't need come see Trent. Oh, whatever, Terry grinned. Terry turned as she was almost to the first landing. It was her hope that Trent was still outside his apartment. Terry exclaimed, but she didn't bring any coffee. She didn't. What sort of creature is she? Trent returned the call. A few minutes later, Terry knocked on Trent's door. Grinning, Trent opened the door. It's all about the coffee. Terry was ushered into the apartment by Trent, who teased her. Well, to be honest, yeah. Oh, and the toilet paper. Terry grinned and took the cup that was extended to her. The 2 sat on the couch once more. Terry revealed that the woman had been her mother-in-law, and Todd had been displeased when Susan had brought groceries rather than cash. Trent grinned. Money seems burn a hole in that boy's pocket. Trent made a note. Terry concurred, if it even makes it to his pocket. So, following my divorce, began setting aside a small amount, Trent remarked. It wasn't easy. Fran would constantly drag me to court for different reasons. However, as you may know, little amounts of money added up over time. A few bucks here, a few bucks there. At this moment, would be content with a few pennies here and a few pennies there, Terry said. Somehow, Trent's right hand ended up on Terry's leg, right below the top of her khaki shorts. Terry said, oh, don't be feeling my legs, God, need to shave them something bad. But she remained motionless as Trent's hand remained on her leg. However, in that tiny shower, reaching them is nearly impossible. Trent shook his calloused hand over Terry's shin and said, yeah, see you really need shave. Especially between them toes there. What? Raising her flip-flop to look at her foot, Terry questioned. Trent mentioned, between them 2 big toes, as his hand once more rested on her chubby thigh. Terry considered that while continuing to look at her foot. Her eyebrows then lifted. She gave a little squeak and gave the man a shoulder slap for laughing. Terry muttered, that's just, you're wrong for that. Once more, Trent placed his hand just above Terry's knee on her leg. Terry left Trent's hand alone. Oops, well, guess what now? Pulling herself up off the cushion, Terry said. Trent's hand found Terry's leg once more when she sat down. Putting her khaki shorts between his large, rough hand and her bare leg, he rested his hand higher up. Taking a sip of her coffee, Trent squeezed Terry's leg and remarked, couple more days, going back out, another 14 on. Terry listened to Trent's words but remained silent. She was breathing heavily and her hands were perspiring. With Trent's hand on her leg, she could feel its strength and warmth. While Trent was talking about offshore work, she managed to finish her coffee mug. Although he had begun as a roughneck, he soon grew weary of the arduous, back-breaking work. Recall a single instance. I learned how to wire a lamp from my grandpa. Made this old junk of a lamp my mom had work again, Trent remarked. I then saved up my funds, attended Votech, and obtained an apprenticeship in electrical work. I progressed to become a master electrician shortly after Fran and I got divorced. Terry opined, I bet she was sorry about that. What? Trent remarked, oh, no, took me right back to court and argued that I should be paying her more now that I'm making more. Oh my goodness, I'm sure she regrets getting divorced from you, Terry said, placing a tiny hand on Trent's protruding bicep. Terry, starting to get really agitated, set down her mug and got up from the couch. She went to the door after thanking Trent for the coffee. Terry said, bye, as she turned the deadbolt knob. Trent nodded. Yeah. Bent, he planted a kiss on her. As they kissed, Terry could taste the coffee that had tinted his tongue. She could also smell the soap he used in his morning shower, his manly scent. She sensed his firm lips meeting hers and his thick tongue prodding its way inside her mouth. She placed her left hand on his chest and felt his muscular chest. She put her right hand on his arm that was covered in a t-shirt and felt his bicep. Terry abruptly said, I buy, as she struggled with the doorknob. She quickly made her way to her own apartment, aware that Trent was watching her. She turned the key in the lock and opened the apartment for herself. She could still smell Todd's dinner and the trash inside. Terry quickly changed into the same outfits she'd worn the day before, choosing only a few maternity pieces, put her flip-flops on, and padded over to Trent's apartment. He was waiting. As he ushered Terry into his apartment, Trent accused. What? You did nothing but wait for the coffee to be finished brewing. Terry said, Yeah, I see. Waste of time come before it's ready, huh? Trent sat back on his couch and put his hand on Terry's leg. They took a moment to sip their coffee. Then Trent became happier. Oh, hey, need grate some cheese for my lunch, Trent replied. Let me borrow them legs. Nah, Terry laughed and gestured with her left leg. I shaved them. See? Trent stroked her leg and remarked, nice. Get between them toes. No, before I could. Oh, the hot water ran out. Nothing to do with you. Terry squealed as she began. She giggled and he laughed. They took another sip of coffee. You like when women shave? Terry inquired. Yes, that is true. Do you enjoy it when ladies shave their honey pots? Gazing at his appealing features, Terry inquired. Trent nodded. Oh yeah, love a nice, smooth honey pot. Why? After draining her coffee cup, Terry inquired after a short while. Why what? Trent grabbed her cup and asked. Why you like women shave that? Questioned Terry. Trent said, no hair gets in my teeth, and entered his kitchen. Terry gave a gasp. Terry stumbled to say, I've never, as Trent handed her another cup of coffee with a generous amount of creamer and sugar added. You really like doing that? Almost as much as I like a good bonding time, Trent replied. Trent drove to the industrial canal that afternoon, boarded the boat, and hid from the pouring rain. The weather was gloomy and dark, just like his attitude. Following his 14 days of work, Trent consented to travel to a land rig located in Low Ridge, Texas, as an electrician was absent due to the flu. Trent had just 3 days to complete that before he was supposed to head back out. Trent heard Terry knock on the door, and his smile turned to one of relief. Grinning even more, he opened the door wide. The moment Terry refused to look up at him, his smile wavered. Do you have coffee? Susan, miss. Terry muttered. Brung us some more groceries by, but still ain't had no coffee. It's the evil of women, I say. Why wouldn't a mother-in-law bring coffee? Teasing Terry, Trent ushered her in. Since he had last seen her, her belly had gotten bigger. Trent found Terry to be gorgeous and seductive, despite the haggard expression on her face. Well, it's been 6.5 months already. I truly must have this coffee. Terry sat down on the couch and asked. Asking me, are you pouring a mug of coffee? Trent inquired. Trent held out the coffee mug, and Terry looked up. There was a dusting of stubble on his face. He looked tired. He appeared somewhat sunburned. Terry had attempted to despise Trent for the previous 18 days. She attempted to hold him accountable for luring her, causing her to forget her marriage vows. Instead, Terry's resentment of Todd increased day by day. Terry was sitting in her neighbor's living room when she felt guilty about it. Then she felt a sudden rage toward Todd. She ought to be allowed to sit in the living rooms of her friends and neighbors. Trent's living room shouldn't have to make her feel bad for sitting there. Terry gulped thanks, snatching the cup from Trent's grasp. Hello, uttered Trent. So, what's up? The doctor says I'm about 26 weeks along, Terry remarked. After that, they had shared a bed. Trent had been too busy to shop for groceries. Terry offered to have lunch at her apartment, but he turned her down, telling her that she and Todd needed to stockpile food because Todd didn't seem to be able to feed his family. So, instead of running around all bare and stuff, why don't you get dressed? Trent made jokes. We can go to Manny's or something. Domino's delivers, Terry uttered as she climbed back into his bed. Yeah, kind of want to take my girl out for a nice lunch, Trent replied. Terry's smile vanished. She struggled and managed to straighten herself. Trent, I'm not your girl, Terry uttered gravely. Recall, My spouse and I are wed, Trent angrily said, only because he got you pregnant. Terry remarked, don't matter why, Trent. Fact is, I'm married. Trent yelled, never mind, and slammed his bathroom door. Terry was gone by the time he emerged. Trent sighed and went to get some slightly stale crackers and a can of beef and barley soup for lunch. Trent did have dinner at Manny's. Trent recalled Fran, his ex-wife, devouring all of the salsa as he bit into the hot salsa. Being pregnant had made her yearn for Mexican food. She would then laze around in bed and grumble bitterly about her terrible heartburn. Additionally, Amelia and Andrea appeared to wake up to Manny's salsa. The infants happily kicked inside their mother's belly. Trent felt his little angels kicking Mommy's stomach, remembering rubbing Fran's belly and feeling the sting of tears. He recalled giving Mommy's tummy a kiss and whispering loving words to his tiny angels. Mister, is there something wrong with you? The waitress inquired, her worried expression dark. No, Trent managed to stifle a smile. Just thinking of something long ago and far away. Trent made up his mind to look at houses during his next visit from offshore and went back to the apartment complex. Fran was required by the terms of the divorce and child support agreement to sell the house because Andrea had left for college 2 years prior. Fran had bought Trent out, not sold the house. He had set aside half of the proceeds to settle Amelia's student loans and contributed a small amount to Andrea's college fund. His payment for that. Trent was informed by Amelia and Andrea that he was unable to purchase them with a sneer. Trent noticed Todd approaching the stairs with his guitar case in hand. Trent was informed by Todd that he was heading to his friend's house to jam. Yes, dude, Dante's. Maybe playing there on Thursday of next week, Todd said. Ought come out and hear us. Going be offshore, but hey, break a leg, or whatever you're supposed to say to musicians. Huh, stated Trent. Trent flicked on the TV in his apartment. He was sitting in his easy chair, not watching news or television. Trent was uninterested in Chelsea Duhan, his favorite reporter. Terry smiled shyly at Trent when he opened the door in the morning. With a sigh, he led Terry inside his apartment. Terry had wanted to go back to Trent's apartment since this afternoon. There was good bonding. Terry finally decided she would go back to Trent's apartment. When she knocked on the door, nobody answered. Upon inspecting the parking lot, she discovered Trent's vehicle was missing. However, she witnessed her spouse's vehicle enter the parking area. She sighed as she made her way to their apartment on the 3rd floor after climbing 2 flights of stairs. Todd entered, said a few words about his day, and told Terry he was heading to Skip's mom's house to jam. Terry thought to God, thank you. Don't have listened to him here. Terry watched with fatigue as Todd dressed for yet another workday in the morning. When he had come back, he had been very inebriated. Terry had practically screamed at him for driving while impaired. She didn't care, she realized then. Terry took a shower after he left for another workday, making sure to shave her armpits and legs. After getting dressed, she hurried over to Trent's apartment. Trent sighed and beckoned her inside his apartment. She proceeded straight to his bedroom. Not surprisingly enough, his bed was made up nicely. Trent reminded her, heading out tomorrow, as they wiggled out of their clothes. But you only recently entered, huh? Questioned Terry. She was forced to her hands and knees by him. Terry seemed to enjoy the angle, but he did not feel comfortable in this position because he was much taller than her. Trent enjoyed his time with her. Terry waited impatiently for Todd to hurry out of the apartment again in the morning. When he left, she was already fiddling with the shower knob and hadn't even kissed him. Trent reminded Terry once more that he was heading offshore for an additional 14 days after they made love. Terry's eyes started to well up with tears. She sobbed, but I don't want you leaving. Hey, I'll be back. Trent laughed and pressed the woman up against him. Well, and what about when I return? Was imagining we'd visit a few homes. Huh, you're moving? Terry let out a cry, now truly sobbing. And taking you along with me, Trent made the choice. Really? Terry gave a sniff. Trent answered, really. Trent was unaware of the change in his lust and desire for Terry. He was unsure of the moment at which his feelings for the teenage bride had evolved from infatuation with the attractive but diminutive woman to love. Trent had been putting money aside. He did not deprive himself of creature comforts or the occasional indulgence. He did not indulge in impulsive purchases. His pickup truck continued to function flawlessly, and he was not in need of the newest models available at Boudreaux Ford. His objective was to locate a house that he could call his own. And now Terry was going to be living in Trent William Rawlings' house. He stood staring at the stunning, nude pregnant woman who was stretched out across his bed. I can't, Trent. I'm married, Terry uttered, her tears resuming. This thing, you know, referred to as divorce, Trent recommended. But, the baby, Terry stated, gesturing to her growing belly. Hey, I'm not saying take him away from the baby, Trent remarked as he drew Terry to lie beside him. I understand how it feels to not be able to see my children. No, does he wish to permit him to see his child? Should he so choose? They had malts and hamburgers at Clark's Drive-In. 2 skimpy-clad girls whizzed by on roller skates, and Terry followed the movement of Trent's eyes. I'm looking, all right, Trent laughed at last. They appear not to be wearing a bra, as evidenced by their extremely tight t-shirts and short red shorts. Yes, I'm searching. Terry gave a huff. Men, women, Trent scowled. Upon noticing the newcomer, the redhead skated up to Trent's window. "You know what? I had second thoughts," Terry declared. "I'd like a chili dog with mustard, a chocolate malt and some cheese fries." Trent barely had time to grab his bag and plant a passionate kiss on Terry before heading back home. After letting out a sigh and letting herself into her one-room apartment, Terry watched him thunder down the stairs. Terry said no to accompanying Todd to Dante's on Thursday night. After loading Todd's amplifier, guitar, and effects pedal board, Todd and Skip departed in their car. A very quiet Skip and an irate Todd returned less than an hour later. Terry asked how their gig went, and they both chose to ignore her. Terry learned through her cousin Yvette that Rick, Dante's manager, had waved them to stop 10 minutes into their performance. The man took 3 $10 bills out of the register, slapped Todd's hand with them, and told them they were bad. Terry watched Todd get ready for yet another day of work at a soaps on the morning Trent was supposed to return. She then gave him a hug and a gentle kiss. Terry packed her few belongings into 2 garbage bags and waited for Trent to return after Todd left. Her heart gave a little burst when she saw Trent stumbling up the stairs with his bag. Trent grinned and said, "Hey there, beautiful," as Terry ran out of apartment 307. "Hello, my love," Terry grinned. "Avoid." Terry went to hug Trent, but he objected, saying, "I'm all sweaty and stinky." Terry was given access to Trent's apartment. While he struggled to get out of his filthy clothes, she started to make a pot of coffee. When Trent got out of the shower, he saw Terry had moved in. He noticed her 5 pregnant blouses hanging when he opened his closet door. Several pairs of shoes were also visible to him on the closet floor. Trent stumbled. He said. Terry motioned for him to remove the towel from around his waist. Following their tumultuous affair, Trent sought out the lawyer Fran had retained during their divorce. Trent was so embarrassed by Kenneth Pergian that he wouldn't even suggest the inept idiot to Todd. Ethel stated that Donald was available that afternoon. Before hanging up, she reminded Trent once more that their appointment was at 3:45. When Trent and Terry walked into the law office lobby at 3:35, they noticed the rather voluptuous receptionist admiring her own engagement and wedding rings. With a self-aware smile, the blonde raised her left hand. Saying it aloud would curse the marriage, Ethel muttered, "I still can't believe it's real. You're Trent and Terry." Todd wondered where his wife was that night. After waiting for roughly 20 minutes, he got bored and started doing something. Terry was not in the laundry room when I checked. The workout room was likewise found to be empty. Todd went back to their apartment and waited once more. Todd had dinner ready for himself at 9 o'clock. After that, he fell asleep. Todd got ready for another workday after making himself breakfast when he woke up. Todd discovered Terry's clothes were missing from the closet when he opened it to retrieve a pair of jeans. Todd went back to the bathroom and discovered that her flowery shampoo had vanished as well. Her voicemail was the first thing he heard when he called her cell phone. Todd pressed end without recording anything. Then he texted her to find out where she was. "Gone," she responded. Todd looked up at it in a soaps when a grinning man came inside. With great interest, the man scanned the loud, clanging, buzzing building. When Todd noticed Cheryl Goodwin pointing at him, he had just finished taping his box shut and was going to grab the next one. The man approached grinning. "Hi, are you Todd? The lead guitarist, is that correct?" Posed by Richard. "Me and Bernie. Oh my god, this party we were at. How many months ago was it? 6 or 7? Dude, you guys were noisy." With a proud smile, Todd said, Yeah, that's right. It has been served to you. This place smells amazing, you know. As I stand here, God, wouldn't it be great to work here? My Bernie would use every penny for soap." Richard chuckled as he took a digital photo of Todd. "Have you been served? Have you been served anything?" Puzzled, Todd asked. "They don't tell me what's in them, just tell me to give them out," Richard said with a smile, giving Todd a wave before turning to leave. Tony grinned and gave Richard a sample bar of their soap. "Here, tell Bernie he can get more at T. Dayton's salon," she said. Additionally, we are online." "Is that T. Dayton's?" "Oh no, ma'am." Richard chuckled, a sincere chuckle. "I am not revealing anything of that nature to Bernadette. There, she would spend every dollar I made." He gave the little bar a whiff and gave a nod of approval. He raised the bar and narrowed his eyes. Tony grinned and said, "That's like our Blackberry. That was actually like the very first batch we ever made." Richard said, "Thank you," and tucked the little bar into his shirt pocket. "My wife will love it." Todd drove home to his mother's house that evening after work. Mother and son discussed the paperwork while seated at her kitchen table. "Well, I was just wondering when it would happen," Susan sighed. "When what would happen?" Todd inquired. Susan gave a headshake. Every day her son looked more and more like his father. Susan had initially cherished Frank's excitement and optimism, as well as his dreamer nature. However, as the expenses increased and the responsibilities drew Susan closer to adulthood, she began to resent her husband's ignorance. "What do you think, Todd?" Susan lost her temper. "When she would come to terms with the fact that you would never mature? When would she finally realize that she doesn't need this crap?" was my question. "That's the thing. So what do I do?" Todd inquired. Sign the paperwork," Susan commanded. "She isn't requesting anything from you. She is requesting child support in the amount of $200 per paycheck." I can assure you that if you fight it, there will be a lot more of it. What, 200? Did I pay her? She's moved on from me. Todd countered, she ought to be the one who pays. Listen, you goddamn dumb idiot. With a growl, Susan pinched Todd's upper and lower lips together to stop him talking. Youth assistance. Kids support. She wants you to give her $200 on the 1st and the 15th in order to pay for your baby. That is insufficient food for even a gerbil, let alone a baby. Todd, please sign the paperwork. Todd did sign the paperwork, and Susan gave First Union Bank's Heidi Moak $15 to notarize it. Todd asked the mother what to do next, and she shook her head in disgust. Todd, put it in the envelope. Todd, lick it shut. Then, Todd, put it in the mailbox, Susan angrily said. Observe. Look at how kind they were. They even gave the damn thing a stamp just for you. Todd, wasn't that kind of them? All right, goddamn, need be so mean about it. Todd complained. Todd snapped to attention, his mouth and eyes wide as Susan's slap hurt. Then his mother jerked him to face level with her, grabbing a hank of his disheveled hair. You call me names ever again. Susan cried out, I'm going to slap the living crap out of you. You understand? They had a late lunch at Backyard Barbecue after that. Terry had just about finished her pulled pork sandwich, but Trent had devoured most of her cornbread and apple fries. When the owners of the bungalow on Baylor Lake reluctantly accepted Trent's offer, he was already offshore. Terry had to put up with the Bank Street Free Clinic staff's smug looks when they saw her, but he was at sea at the time. Terry's red face was noticed by her father Wade, but he did not inquire further. In stony silence, he simply drove his daughter back to the Venice apartment complex. Terry said, Daddy, I'm sorry for becoming pregnant once more. Once more, Wade just gave a slight sigh and nodded in agreement with her apology. After giving him a cheek kiss, she exited the vehicle. Terry said, Oh, but if it makes you feel any better, as Wade's car began to pull away. I did finally dump that loser Todd. Terry went into labor while Trent was once more offshore. Wade groaned stoically, got out of bed, and drove to the apartments in Venice. Watching Terry wait for him in front of the apartment building, her face pallid and smeared with tears, made him feel a little guilty. Wade said, Terry, I would have gone up to help you, as he unlocked her car. Just get me to. Terry gave a wheeze. Wade went to the maternity ward at St. Elizabeth's Trauma Center, made sure his daughter was admitted, and then proceeded to the waiting area. He called Susan in the waiting area to inform her that they had arrived at St. Elizabeth's Trauma Center and that Terry was in labor. Wade then abruptly started to wonder where Todd was. Todd most definitely ought to have taken his wife to the hospital in his car. Got him, Wade thought to himself, what a loser. Miss Susan. When Terry's soon-to-be ex-mother-in-law showed up wearing scrubs, she yelled, Where on earth is your dad? Susan planted a kiss on Terry's perspiring forehead and said, He called me, let me know you were here. Terry said, I don't know, and then moaned as she felt another contraction. Susan angrily said, Wade, you get in here now, and hurried into the waiting room. Why? Surprised by the woman's venom, Wade remarked, I'm not a doctor. Your daughter is that one. That's your grandkid, Susan growled, yanking him from the chair. Where is your son, too? What? Susan was dragging Wade down the hall when he snapped. Susan replied, Hell if I know, probably sleeping at home. Rather than right here, along with his spouse. Wade asked while he was getting ready to change into hospital scrubs with Susan and a nurse. When Susan realized, oh my God, she didn't tell you, no, you arrogant, self-righteous prick, they're getting a divorce. Wade spit out, Jesus, she's just like her mother. You know what? Proceed now. Go. Simply go, you bastard, Susan uttered. Don't worry about your daughter, I got this. 30 minutes later, a sheepish Wade did indeed slip into the room his weeping, perspiring daughter was in. All right, got the head, the physician said. Come on, my love, you've done fantastically thus far. Please, just a little bit more, and exert pressure. Wade's daughter gave an agonized wail, and he started crying. Susan turned to look, her mask concealing a sly smile. And, it's a boy, declared Dr. Sweetman. Russell, Terry moaned feebly. His name is Russell, here. Russ, you're naming him Russell. Wade inquired, his eyes welling up with new tears. Daddy, what are you doing here? Terry looked at him and asked. Wade inquired once more, you're naming him. Who's Russell? Susan querying. Russell was a brother of mine. Wade stated, he had Down syndrome. Died a couple of days after Terry was born, heart defect. Terry said as she held Russell, all I ever heard was he was so excited he was going to be an uncle, even practiced signing his name Uncle Russell. And William? Susan inquired while focusing her dark brown eyes on Wade's hazel brown eyes. My middle name, acknowledged Wade. And Trent's, Terry considered saying, but she refrained. Susan said to Terry, I'm too pretty to be a grandma, in jest. Yes, you are, Terry concurred. So what do you want be called? Susan said, let me think on it, gave Terry's perspiring forehead one more kiss, and left the room. Susan sat down to a breakfast of scrambled eggs, turkey bacon, and biscuits with black pepper in the cafeteria. Wade came over, holding a tray. May I? It all right if I join you? Wade inquired. Susan gave a nod. Saying thank you, Wade spoke. 4. Looking up, Susan questioned. Wade said, making me realize what a jerk I was being. I've been about this whole thing, in a low voice. She committed an error. She erred and became pregnant. However, since then, she has been making an effort to do her best. Susan said, should be proud of her. I am certain that I am. And even after she and my son got divorced, I'm hoping she keeps me in my grandchild's life. Wade pledged, I'll make sure she doesn't. When Todd's mother texted him to tell him he was the father of a 6-pound, 9-ounce baby boy named Russell, his initial reaction was, so what? His second reaction was to just put the text message away. Todd discovered that $200 had been deducted from the total when he examined his pay stub 9 days later. He questioned Tony Delacroix vehemently regarding the shortage. Yeah, like got a notice from St. Elizabeth Parish Court, Tony replied. Oh, well, let's see. Like child support, isn't it? Are you serious? Honestly, are they going to deduct that from my paycheck? Todd screamed, furious. Where did they think to get it? Cheryl Goodwin cut him off. Your bank account in the Cayman Islands. Todd almost told her to get over herself. Todd's fury increased as the hours passed. Terry could really take money out of his paycheck. That was just unimaginable. That she would be the one to access his funds before he was. When Todd called to complain about this, Susan gave a sharp laugh. She said plainly that Terry would have to wait a long time if she had to rely on Todd to voluntarily give her the $200. In this manner, before you go blow it on some stupid crap you don't need, your baby gets food and diapers, Susan remarked, hanging up the phone. And I require. Hi there. Oh no, Mom, put an end to me, Todd complained. When Todd got home, he was still muttering, and he noticed that Trent was leaving apartment 304. A queen-sized mattress was being wrestled out of the door by the man and 2 burly men. Todd questioned, moving? Can't slip nothing by you, stated Trent. The pair of men assisting Trent chuckled. Todd just shrugged it off and strolled over to apartment 307. After battling the bed down 2 flights of stairs, Trent and the other 2 got it into the box truck he had rented. While Trent and the other man went back up to make sure they hadn't missed anything, one of the men started the truck. Trent remarked, saw your dumb husband, as the 3 men struggled the mattress inside the house in Baylor Lake. Ex-husband, said Terry. Guys, chili's just about ready, hope y'all are hungry. Oh yeah, exclaimed one of the men. And remember, Terry remarked, handing each man a clean $100 bill. Todd's paying for this, okay. I'm grateful, Todd, a man grinned. Sorry, Terry grinned, hearing Russell sob from the nursery. And someone's crying for a woman. You'll get your woman later, Terry chuckled and quickly left the room. One man cracked open a St. Elizabeth ale and exclaimed, damn, Rawlings, How old is she? Trent answered, 18, getting a Coca-Cola for himself. Yes, I am aware that I have 20 years on her. I know, robbing the cradle. The other man responded, well, that's a very deep subject, the first man remarked. The other man said, all right, deep subject, stated the first man. Oh, you funny looking, said the other man. But as I mentioned earlier, you should ignore her complaints, Rawlings, about you robbing the cradle there. Todd sat idly in his apartment, scarfing down one of his mother's frozen dinners, while Terry was caring for their son in their Baylor Lake home. He selected his favorites as usual and threw the remainder of the meal in the trash. Phew, smelling the foul garbage, Todd gasped. He emptied the contents of the plastic bin into the large dumpster after carrying it down the stairs. After giving a nod to a fellow resident who was carrying a burst garbage bag, he went back to his apartment. Todd entered the one-room apartment and immediately noticed the stench of his trash. He noticed his filthy glasses and bowls piled up in the small sink. He gasped again when he opened the dishwasher and smelled the horrible smell coming from the machine. The futon was uncomfortable and lumpy. The TV was not working. He had not paid the cable bill for the previous 4 months. The dishwasher was gurgling and throbbing noisily as it cleaned the dishes. It was currently operating. Goddamn, Todd let out a scream. Oh my God, this is awful. This is really awful. The following day, as Todd got ready for yet another workday at a job he detested and believed was well beneath his abilities and intelligence, he had an epiphany. Grinning, he chomped through the remaining Frosted Flakes cereal. He went to work and performed his work with joy. He treated himself to a beef pizza from the food truck called Pizza, which was parked outside Anna Soap's during lunch. Todd worked with a smile on his face the remainder of the day. Todd barely got out of the punch when he suddenly grabbed his stomach and staggered for the bathroom. While she waited, Tony Delacroix wished the other staff members a good evening. At last, she perceived the sound of the toilet flushing, and a perspiring Todd emerged from the staff lavatory. Todd was belting out a song 3 days after the fire when he heard someone banging on his apartment door very forcefully. With a sneer, he wondered which of his careless neighbors was going to cut him off. When Todd was taken into custody for second-degree murder and aggravated arson in connection with the deaths of the 2 firefighters, he was shocked. His mugshots depicted a scared, wide-eyed child. Susan cried, "No, Todd," when he called her from the Kimball Police Department. "I'm not going to save you. Son, your foolishness claimed the lives of 2 men as well. Todd, they passed away." The St. Elizabeth Parish Courthouse was heavily guarded. Todd glanced around, startled by the looks of rage on people's faces as well as the screams and shouts of those in the crowd trying to approach him. "I'm sorry," Todd let out a scream. "I apologize. They weren't meant to pass away." Todd's attorney, who was appointed by the court, did advise that he trim his long hair because the jury and the presiding judge would find it more presentable. Todd also didn't want his long hair to make him look weak to his fellow prisoners when he got to prison. Todd countered, but I'm a guitar player." The attorney said, "Kid, listen, Metallica chopped their hair, and they're still just as good." While Todd awaited the start of his trial, the divorce was granted. Todd was indifferent to the news and simply shrugged when his mother informed him that the paperwork had arrived. Epilogue: Todd was convicted of involuntary manslaughter and aggravated arson. When he was given a 25-year sentence of hard labor and sent back to Mumphrey to serve out his term, he sobbed with Susan. Trent spent a 4-day weekend taking Terry to Disney World after receiving the papers declaring Terry's divorce from Todd. Terry happily accepted his proposal on their final day together. Wade was distressed to discover that his daughter was living apart from her married life with a man. Terry, however, had developed a strong spine after enduring an unpleasant marriage, giving birth nearly by herself, and now taking full responsibility for Russell's care. She had shrugged her shoulders after glancing at her father's irate expression. Terry remarked, "I'm an adult, Dad," with simplicity. "I hope you come to like and accept Trent because I adore him. However, I'm an adult. I live it." Wade was not placated by the announcement of their engagement. He pursed his lips as he studied the pricey diamond ring. "Terry, he is 39 years old." "Jesus," Wade countered, "he's my age." "That's right. And," stated Terry, "the wedding is on March 4th. Please give me away, that would be nice. However, what if you don't?" "Well, whatever." "Hey, wait, where's Russell?" Wade inquired out of the blue. "With his grandparents," Terry grinned. "Grams?" Wade inquired. "Miss Susan," said Terry. It was decided to give her that name. "Grams?" "Yes, and she will attend the nuptials." Wade said, She's all right with me separating from her son, Trent, and me getting married." "Yes," Terry replied. "Oh, Mom will also be present. Furthermore, she does not approve of my marrying Trent. Says I ought to give him to her." Wade invited Susan to dance during Terry and Trent's wedding reception. Wade asked Susan if she would like to go to Foxtrot Lounge some evening so they could dance, drink, and get to know one another after they had a great time dancing together at the reception. "I mean, first thing you need to know about me." As they performed a lively jitterbug, Wade said, "I used to be a piece of trash." "Was it once? What took place?" Susan smiled and raised her skirt to ask. Wade grinned and said, "Became a grandpa. So, the first thing you should know about me is, I refuse to tolerate trash." Susan grinned. "But yeah, I'd love to go to Foxtrot, do a little dancing." Wade kept Susan off the dance floor for another song after noticing the angry looks that he and Susan were receiving from his ex-wife. Terry cornered him and forced him to dance with her mother after he had previously danced with his former sister-in-law and even his former niece, Yvette. "Oh my goodness, Wade, that was an error in judgment," his ex-wife growled. "But still can't get over it, huh?" Yes, it was a wonderful wedding, wasn't it?" stated Wade. "Yes, her husband's age surprised me a little, but Terry claims that she loves him. And, my goodness, doesn't he seem to adore our grandson?" His ex-wife growled, "You're a piece of trash," and stormed off. "That's former trash, thank you very much," Wade said as he turned to face her. "Ex not happy?" With a brand new glass of champagne extended for Wade, Susan inquired. "It appears that way," grinned Wade. "By the way, anyone ever tell you what beautiful eyes you have?" "Be cautious," Susan chuckled. "I'm just drunk enough to believe that line of crap." Terry acted as Susan's matron of honor and Wade's favorite son-in-law as his best man, 3 months after their first date. Susan's brother made fun of his sister because she had also been pregnant at her first marriage. Susan said, "Yeah, but at least this one's got a job." My comment, Trent better get another job right after the honeymoon if he has any hope of Terry being faithful to him. Given her love of coffee with special cream, it would not be long before she is shocked to find herself impaled on some strange if he leaves her for 2 weeks on a regular basis. She had told herself this guy was just a good friend to spend time with while Trent was away.